Welcome to A Rare Reality, a podcast powered by Jordan's Guardian Angels. I'm Christina Janes, Director of Outreach and Content Development for JGA, and I'm thrilled to be back at it here on this podcast. We took a few weeks off after the family conference in July. Everybody needed to clear their minds and go over everything that we discussed, and let me just say thank you to all of you who could attend, who could be there in person and see us in Boston, and it was wonderful. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all your energy and your joy, and for really putting your hearts and souls into those few days that we were together. We had incredible outcomes on the data front, and we got to exchange ideas. We got to see your kiddos who have gotten so big since the last time that we saw them. We had a chance to really sit down and talk to all of you about what we're doing as a foundation, where we're going, and most importantly, where the research is going as well. Our incredible research team was there. All of them were in attendance. So thank you to all of you who were able to be there as part of the research team. It really makes a difference for our families to be able to see you, and hope that you enjoyed speaking with them as well. So one major update from the family conference was that human clinical trials were announced by Dr. Wendy Chung. And today, we really wanted you to hear that again. We wanted to make sure that if you haven't had a chance to see the videos that we've sent out, that you got a chance to hear from Dr. Wendy Chung, who, of course, is our lead researcher, an incredible medical mind, world-renowned. She's amazing, and she made some big announcements at our family conference. So take a minute and take a listen.
This is the new news, so now you have to wake up and pay attention. For the 5D community, let me be clear, this is for the 5D community. What we learn from the 5D community, though, we will apply and we will rinse and repeat for the other genes, the other communities over time. So I want to give Stefan credit in terms of thinking about this. We tried to think about what I think about in terms of short-term, medium-term, and long-term impact that we could have for the community. And so with this, we tried to think through what medications, what pills, essentially, could be used that may have been found to be safe for other conditions, so safety first in terms of thinking about this. What could we find that was safe, that might scientifically make sense for our community, and with that, be able to go through and figure out if this should go forward. Now think back to what I said before. We were smart in terms of, and planful in terms of making that toolbox. So we had the toolbox in terms of having our mouse models in this particular case, and we could use those because they had behaviors that are similar to our kiddos, and we could try medications in them to see if it moved the needle, if it seemed to have a positive effect in terms of the behaviors we were seeing, and if it looked like we were safe. Now, not to say that those furry four-footed friends are exactly like your children, but they're a good way of being able to do a first screen and a first pass to see if that might be useful. So in fact, Stefan did that. Stefan in his lab did that in terms of checking out this one medication, which has been used before in a trial for Fragile X syndrome. So Fragile X syndrome, a different condition, but has some similarities in that it's genetic, it's also a neurodevelopmental condition, and within that, it was shown to be safe. So within that, it was tried, was part of a clinical trial. People did not have adverse events, didn't have problems with the medication. Now, unfortunately, it was not a home run in Fragile X, in the first clinical trial at least, in that it didn't magically cure Fragile X. And these were adults, and there are reasons why it might not have worked for them, at least not initially. But on the other hand, it looked like it was safe, and so it was worthwhile trying in the mouse model. In the mouse model, it did move the needle in a very positive way. And so in terms of being able to, it's a maze, or it's a way of being able to remember what the mouse learns and whether to go left or right, and to remember to go left rather than right. And the mice seemed to learn that better when they were on the medication. And so that looked positive in terms of being able to go forward. It is on the basis of those data that we are now going forward with what I hope before the end of 2024 will be the first clinical trial for Jordan syndrome. Boy, I got goosebumps. So let me explain a clinical trial to set expectations within this. We don't know if this is going to work, how it's going to work, and so this is what I said in terms of everyone who decides to participate. It is a commitment. We realize it's a big commitment. We're all very grateful in terms of those of you who will be brave to try this. And we need you to be observant because we have built into this the measures that we think might change with the treatment. But I also have an open mind that you might observe other things changing, either that we haven't thought of or that we don't want to burden you by measuring everything. So we've tried to be realistic in terms of what we're measuring going forward. Now, I realize these are, I'm showing you, and I'm happy to go over this in detail or questions later. I realize not everyone meets the inclusion criteria. I'm fully conscious of that, and within this, I'll explain the rationale in terms of why that is. These are always iterative, so you always have to start someplace and gather some data and then be able to move forward. And so the goal is not to leave anyone behind at the end of the day, but we do need to start small first and see whether or not this whole thing is the right strategy or if it's a waste of time. And so we don't want to burden too many people, and we want to do this safely. So the inclusion criteria for doing this, as I said, is first with 5D. We have enough individuals in the 5D community to start there and to be able to go forward. Not to say that we're not going to think about other conditions in the future, but we're going to start with 5D. We're starting with slightly older individuals, and that's because the first clinical trial in Fragile X syndrome was with adults, and so we know the safety data in adults. We think it's going to be about the same for adolescents, but I don't know what it might be for a 2-year-old. So we're going to start with older individuals. We've widened it out from what was done in Fragile X to make it a little broader in terms of adolescents. And if we go through and we find that this is safe and effective in this age group, I can imagine a path forward where we're going to go down to younger ages. But as a community, we're going to work together in terms of being able to do this and do the first stages. We realize that many individuals are on other medications, and so we've built this in to make sure that people can continue on their current medications. But what we need to do during the clinical trial is not change 5 variables at once. We need to do only one variable we're changing at a time. So we need people to be stable on everything else while we're in the phase of the clinical trial. And so I say this because some of you may go home from the meeting, you may talk to your doctors, you may say, I don't know, maybe we need to change a seizure medication. Fine, perfectly fine. Your doctor can do whatever they need to do to treat your child. We will, though, by the time we get to, if you go into the clinical trial, we'll want people to be stable. So whatever that is, we want you to be stable in terms of your medications, be it for behavior, be it for seizures, whatever that might be. This is an oral medication, so it is not a injection, it is not an intrathecal injection. We don't have to drill holes into the brain, nothing like that. It's very easy in terms of being able to do it, but it is a capsule, and so we're either going to have to swallow pills or we're going to have to put it into something that you can then eat and swallow. So start thinking about that. We've tried to think about how to make this as easy as possible for families and to be able to geographically have positions. And so we've taken one place in each of the 3 parts of the country. So because we have experience with this at Boston Children's in Seattle, those were obvious. And I've recruited one of my good friends, Liz Berry-Kravitz in Chicago, a child neurologist who does a lot of clinical trials, and she's going to be helping us for the middle of the country as well. In doing this, I should have said we're going to have 30 individuals, 30 individuals who are going to be going through this. So it's in some ways a large number, in some ways quite a small number, but we'll have 30 going through this. Just some relatively small features. I think everyone, is going to be able to qualify if they're the right age range, but we need to be of a certain size and not have serious kidney or liver conditions, and I think most people will qualify because of that. And again, we can post this later, but it is a big commitment. And so I do want people to think about this as we're doing this. To describe, this is about a year-long study, so almost 12 months in terms of doing this. The first little phase is to make sure that someone is eligible. The second, it ends up being 24 weeks, is to be able to be blinded about whether you're on the sugar pill or whether you're on the medication. It'll be half and half. Half of people will be on the sugar pill, half of the people will be on the medication. You won't know, we won't know. We're what we call double-blinded. That is the most rigorous way for us to see whether or not this medication is having an effect. So it's very important for us to do that. And with that, then, I don't know if the side effect comes up. I won't know at the time whether your child is on medication or the sugar pill. And if they're having an effect, I won't know if it's on the sugar pill again or the medication. On the other hand, for the second half of the study, everyone is on medication, so that everyone gets the chance to be potentially see a benefit from the medication if there is a benefit. So we thought long and hard about this. We talked with members of your community to think about how to do this in the most rigorous way, how to be able to allow people the most access, but as I said, still do it rigorously. So it'll be 2 halves. Because of those 2 halves, that makes it into about a year-long study in terms of doing it. Within this, there are multiple clinical visits, so each one of these X's, as you look forward to it, is a clinical visit, and you'll have to go, if you sign up for the study, to the same site. So if you sign up for Seattle, you're going to Seattle for all of those visits. Now, included within that, the study will cover your transportation to be able to go to Seattle or to go to Boston Children's or to go to Chicago. So within this, we're going to support you in doing that, but I realize it's still taking time off of work. It's being able to take a child out of school. It is a big commitment in terms of thinking about this. Most of these visit days will be 1-day visits. So for the most part, there's some time to get there, some time to get back home, but it is a full day in terms of being able to go forward. And for as much as we're going to try and do it by remote check-in. So we've got study staff, we've got nurses to be able to talk to you remotely as much as we can, but we are going to have to do some of the things in person, okay? So we've tried to balance in everything we do to be able to get it just right in terms of doing this. At the end of this, we have some safety studies that are included in this, so we're doing things like checking EEGs, we're checking the heart, we're checking some blood samples, we're checking some urine samples, all of that to make sure this is safe as we go forward, and then to check and see what's happening in terms of learning, what's happening with memory, what's happening behavior, and all of those to see the impact that we're having. And then I would encourage you, although it's not required, for those of you who participate, to keep your own diaries, keep your own notes, mental notes in terms of what's going on. As I said, even videotapes, if you're seeing something new, to be able to have a record so that we can go back afterwards to be able to see it. With this, our hope is that we'll be able to open this up in Q4 of 2024. So towards the end of the year of 2024 is what we're working really hard to. And I have to say, this is where Carol comes in and beats us with a stick. As we're doing this, I'm also cognizant of the holidays that'll come up at the end of the year, and so people will help us sort of think realistically about what is and isn't feasible to do that. The hope is that if we can do this, that hopefully this, again, takes a year to do it, with 30 people coming into this, a year to do it. Hopefully, within 2 years, mark that date, 2 years from today, hopefully we'll have an idea about whether or not this is working. So let me go just a little bit. If there's anyone who's interested, we've been asking you all and sort of tentatively finding out who might be interested, but anyone else who might be interested, you can, my research nurse practitioner, Joanne Carroll, is sort of taking people's information, and we're trying to figure out logistics in terms of location and ages and things like that. So feel free to send us a note if you think you might be interested.
Again, Dr. Wendy Chung making the announcement that human clinical trials are set to begin. Check your newsletter. Your newsletter is in your email. In there, you will find that if you are age eligible, that you'll be able to take part potentially in human clinical trials. There's an email there in the newsletter. If you are interested in taking part, they can add you to the list of potential people who might be able to take part in this. So make sure that you send those emails in so we can make sure that you are accounted for, and we will be keeping you updated on all the wonderful things that are happening as time goes by. We're so thrilled. We're so excited. We're so energized. Lots to come, and the future is so bright for our children. We're very excited. So thank you to all of you for taking part in our conference. Thank you for listening to Dr. Wendy Chung. There's going to be a lot more coming from the research team as well. So lots to catch up on as we get into the back half of the year in this podcast. Make sure you stay tuned because we have some big things that are coming around the mountain for you. So if you have not heard our other podcasts from earlier this season or in seasons past, please take a minute, check them out. They're on YouTube. for translation services as well. They're on our website, jordansguardianangels.org, and they're also available on any of the podcast platforms that you listen to and enjoy. So please take a minute, get caught up on everything. I know you'll enjoy it. We've loved telling our family stories, and there are a lot more family stories to come as well. So thank you always for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will be back every other Monday with a brand new podcast for all of you to listen to. All right, take care, everyone. See you soon.